Welcome to the magazine segment, and today we are looking at an interesting topic. If there was a time that two seemingly separate topics have been forced to share podiums, even in pulpits, is religion and sexuality. And to discuss the campaigns that have and are initiated from the church front, our two guests. We have Dennis Mutuma, who is the coordinator under the private-public partnerships of HIV-Free Generation, as well as Veneranda Kuboka, program officer for Network for Adolescents Youth of Africa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Right. Interesting name, Veneranda.
Yeah.
Still getting used to it. Right. I mean, just to start us off, maybe we could start with Veneranda. The reality that taboo topics cannot be overlooked by the church is now a reality.
Yes.
And we cannot bury our heads in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist. How easy is it to have the pulpit make space for what were once taboo issues?
One thing we must know that it's not easy to actually get space for our leaders in church to talk openly about sexuality. But that is what we are trying to counter as young people, because we've seen the effects. It's clear, it's evident that young people are having sex and they're having it in church. So our challenge this morning is, how are we able to create open forums so that they can talk openly about sexuality?
Do you see like it's picking up in the church? Are pastors becoming brave enough to talk about it?
Of late, I would say that it's picking up, because one of the things that we need to realize, especially in the church nowadays, you look at our teenagers and our young people and young adults, they are spent 70 to 90% of their time in church. Like when you look at once the schools are closed, you come to realize that there are rigorous programs which have been set for the young people, so that
by the church.
Mm-hmm. There are camps, there are outings, there are seminars which keep them engaged. And in these seminars, they're being taught and being trained on various aspects. And we're looking forward to have this topic on sex and sexuality being incorporated in this, because many people are shying away from this. Mm-hmm. And it's a high time that we really need to address this, because once we leave it out of the curriculum of what we are training and we are teaching our young people, later on in life, we see them getting out to experiment what they are not being told and what they are learning outside.
Right. So maybe, Veneranda, based on what you do go to schools and talk about this particular very important topic.
Yes.
What exactly do you tell the students?
I would be very frank and be very honest. In schools, I preach abstinence. But at the same point in time, you realize that in the same schools, young people are really having so much sex. And when you look at what the government is trying to implement in regard to the life skills program they are trying to implement in schools, you would even get sued for trying to say that let's practice safer sex. So I strictly preach abstinence in schools. But for those who are struggling, because again, young people are really struggling with a lot of sexual addiction, issues of masturbation and pornography, I get to engage with them and get one-on-one and do counseling. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. It would be criminal for you to talk about safer sex. Why is that?
The government doesn't really allow that. I cannot go on talking about the use of condoms in schools. Yes.
Right, because it will be seen to be encouraging.
Yes, you are actually encouraging sex.
Right,
but we stress so much on abstinence.
So it's more like what the Catholic Church stands for.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, Dennis, you could tell us, HIV. Do you feel like it has, in a great way, been a trigger to the adoption of topics on sexuality?
I would say, in a way, yes, because the church has really come out on the forefront to curb this and to join the government and the NGOs and also the private sector in fighting the uprise or the growth and the incidence of HIV. And you come to realize that in churches right now we have what we are calling support groups for those who are HIV/AIDS positive and living with HIV/AIDS. And in some churches, you'll come to realize that they have gone to an extent of having a VCT in-house in the compound on the church. And I would say this is the first step that we are taking, or the church should take, to see that we are getting to have our young people who are not yet infected first get to know what HIV is, because I believe information is out there, but still not yet available to everyone. So we need to have the church get upfront to all this and speak it out. And the way to spread this is through the young people, reaching out from the ages of 10 up to around 24 years, because according to the Kenya National Indicator Survey, that the age bracket of 10 to 24 is where we have the least people infected with HIV/AIDS. And if we are able to target these young people at this tender age and they grow up when they are HIV-free, then we are able to have an HIV-free generation in the next couple of years.
Right. And then also looking in terms of, other than HIV, are there other challenges that are faced within relationships and in marriage that present ground for discussion on topics such as this?
I would say yes, because you come to realize that at the age of 15, a young girl or a young boy is at the peak of his or her teenage, and there's that attraction to the opposite sex. And you come to realize that, like most of us, we grew up when we were being told, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And we are not told, like, this is how you're supposed to do it. So most of us
being told, explained to why you should not do this.
Yes, it's more or less you're not explained to.
Right.
And you come to realize most of the young people right now, they're getting information from the internet, from the social media, from the media. There's the programs that are being aired on the different stations, the soap operas. And we have role models and mentors that we look up to, and we get wrong information from these different channels. And you come to realize that what young people are handling right now, or the way they're behaving in their relationships, is more or less in what I would call explorative platform. They're exploring. And that's why you come to get most of them, they mess up. And you come to see that like a lady gets engaged with the boy, and once they have sex, once or twice, the boy moves on to another one. And this is a platform where we need to first empower these young people to understand their sexuality, who they are, and then enable them or empower them to make right decision, especially when it comes to sex.
Right. Veneranda, you could tell us also some of the challenges that arise, considering that sexuality is one of the challenges that lead to failed marriages.
One of the major challenges that normally arises is that mostly when you talk so much about sexuality, people have that mindset of you're either having too much sex or you're encouraging sex.
Now, for you talking to the young people about
Yes.
sexuality.
So they think you're either having too much sex or you're encouraging them to have sex, which is not the case. Then also we've not been able to change people's attitudes regarding them talking openly about sexuality as a result of the different beliefs and cultural system. As you realize, when we even trace back to the olden days, people never used to talk openly about these issues. So that's the kind of mindset we are also trying to change from our side. Then you find that we are so much judgmental, particularly in the church, such that when you get that young people engage in premarital sex, we are very quick to judge and maybe even chase them out of church, so to speak. So it's quite a great challenge when we are addressing these issues, because people are still trying to come to terms. Yes, it is happening, but we are assuming it's not happening. We've thrown it in our subconscious, which is very wrong.
Well, there's a quote or is a saying that says, the church kills its wounded,
Yes.
whereas the world heals its wounded.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I quite agree with that. Because as you see, the church, as Dennis said, most of the young people right now, very many of them spend so much time in church. And if the church is able to realize that and be able to come up with programs that are going to accommodate the young people, and these programs are going to address their challenges, ranging from relationship issues, sexuality, the issues of self-esteem, decision-making, the ability for young girls to negotiate and be assertive, that would be very, very nice. Yes.
And you teach all that?
I do that.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Dennis, what help is offered to those who present these challenges, and what kind of empowerment is offered for self-awareness?
Right now, we're working on a platform. Like we've had a series of radio shows where we've been talking about different topics. We've been talking about gender roles and responsibilities, which is breaking up the different stereotypes of what men ought to be do, what is thought men are supposed to be doing.
Because even things have changed anyway.
Things have changed, and
completely,
generation is we're in a different generation than us guys we grew up in, and we've handled also topics such as understanding your sexuality, building your self-esteem. We have handled sex, and also we're getting now into whereby we're handling now life skills.
In fact, just as you're going on, when you talk to them about, because that's what we're talking about today, sexuality, when you talk to them about sex, what do you tell them? Do you tell them it's bad or what?
No, we don't tell them sex is bad. Sex is good idea. For a fact, sex is good.
And you openly tell them that?
You openly tell them. But now, it was created, or God created sex to be enjoyed in the confinement of a marriage. So that is what someone has to understand. But because we are not told sex is to be enjoyed in the confinement of marriage, we just tell them, don't have sex. You're telling a young girl, don't allow a boy to touch your boobs, don't allow to touch your butts or stuff, but you're not telling them, don't have sex. You're just telling them, don't. We're not telling them what to do. So when you're talking about sexuality, we're empowering them first to understand yourself as a lady, understand yourself as a man, the different changes that occur to you as you grow up, and what you need to do as these changes come. And from there now we empower them to come to this point of making right decisions as part to what they need to do. And coming up with the different challenges that they face each and every day, we also giving them solutions and ideas and also ways of how to handle such.
Right, but Veneranda, abstinence. It's been preached over and over again, but it seems to be a failing strategy. What do you think?
I think if I talk to you about abstinence, I should talk about the benefits of abstaining. For instance, if you abstain, what is the outcome? What is the positive side of abstinence, which we hardly talk about? If you tell a young person, don't have sex, or sex is bad, of course, out of curiosity, out of experimentation, they will go out of their way and do it.
And the hormones are raging anyway, and they're not told what to do with those hormones.
This is the time they are really hot. Their hormones are very hot, and their blood is kind of also hot. So they want to
believe they're the answer to the world.
Yes. And they're looking for love, of course, at some point in the wrong places and with the wrong people. So it's important, if you're preaching abstinence, tell people what are the benefits and does it work for you practically? Because as for me personally, I am put on hot seats. Are you abstaining yourself? So you also ought to be a very, very good role model.
Right, what do you think about that?
I do agree, because I would say right now what the young person out there is looking for is someone to look up to. And that's why when we have all these soap operas, Alejandro, Lamuel, people get their role models from those stuff. And you come to realize that when I get into a relationship with a lady, I expect him or her to behave like someone is behaved on a soap opera.
Fantasy.
I expect this man to bring me flowers, chocolate, take me out for vacations, whereas this is not the world that we're living in.
Could that be a reason why also many relationships and marriages are failing?
I would say yes.
Because of high expectations.
Yes.
There's the aspect of high expectations and
unreasonable
targets sorry to say, maybe that's a high word to use, unreasonable desires per se. And I'm expecting this middle income